Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Test Drive podcast. I'm your host, Lee Bodette. Also with us is Scott Nickerson from Sport Car USA. I'm the host of Test Drive, the series on the YouTube channel, also a radio broadcaster for the past 40 years, over 40 years, the frontman and host for Sport Car USA, and of course, I've been a car enthusiast my entire life. Scott and I are pleased to welcome the car chief for William Byron's number 24 Camaro ZL1 in the NASCAR Cup Series. His name is Tyler Jones. Tyler, thank you and welcome.
Hey, thank you guys for having me.
So Tyler, Sport Car USA, just so you know a little bit about us, we are based in northern Vermont, the St. Albans area, and we buy and sell modern muscle cars all over the country. We see that you are a fellow Vermonter. Tell us where you grew up.
I am. I actually grew up in South Royalton, so central Vermont, and I went to UVM for 2 years after I graduated. So familiar with the St. Albans, Burlington area pretty well, actually.
Well, before we get too much into our show here, we did want to touch on the flooding, which I know you've heard about in Vermont, devastating flooding. Have you had any family members or friends that have been affected by this terrible flooding?
Not that I'm aware of. My dad's been kind of keeping me up to date about it. I'm hoping to get up there actually this afternoon, late evening, and be able to go see my grandparents over in Rochester. But there is some concern that the river over there is flooded enough to where we won't be able to get to them. But as far as I know, everything is a go.
Are there any other Vermonters that you're aware of in the NASCAR series?
There's a few, actually. Two of our engine tuners, the number 9 engine tuner for Chase Elliott is his name is Tony Bove. He's actually from the Burlington area. And then Steven, the other tuner on the 5, is from Vermont as well. So there's a few of us, actually.
So how did you get started in this line of work, if you will?
So kind of started young for me. My dad and my uncle, when I was a young kid, had some late models, pro stocks, I guess we called them. Ran around some of the local tracks when I was elementary school. So was exposed to it pretty early. We had a shop at my grandparents' house, and I'd spend most of my days after school when I was young going up there. I really wasn't able to help much then, but I think it stuck with me. It felt comfortable, and we actually took a field trip when I was in first grade, I believe. Took the whole class up there to see the cars. So that was a cool thing. I still can remember that. So basically built an ACT car as a family, and that was kind of the end of the family racing. I think that put us to our max cost on what we could spend on stuff. So my uncle had a chance to move down to North Carolina with one of the guys that was racing at the time, the Alsop brothers, Nipper and AJ. So he took an opportunity to move to North Carolina with them. Fast forward, after I was out of college, I was actually end of my second semester and trying to decide, where do I go from here? He said, "Hey, listen, if you're pretty athletic, we can get you down here, maybe get a tryout for a pit crew type of thing." So took a leave of absence from UVM, went down there, tried out for a few pit crew jobs, and actually eventually ended up on a developmental pit crew team at Chip Ganassi Racing. And from there, kind of just did some bush races and some trucks, and eventually made my way onto the travel team as well as pitting. And then after that, it was I did a little bit of truck racing, and then I made it to Hendrick Motorsports.
So another question, just thinking about that too, is what does a tryout look like for pit crew?
So it's position based, I had thought, changing tires was probably my best bet based on my size, a little smaller than some of the guys. And so you just show up, and there's a few of you, and they run you through the paces kind of, and then a few people watch you and see if you have potential or not. And I did, apparently. So I did some races for Ganassi. Got my first win with Juan Pablo in Mexico City as a tire changer. So that was pretty cool. That was 2007.
So what does like your training regimen? Do you like you don't have an off season? Are you like in the weight rooms like to be able to keep up with it? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, so it's pretty much nonstop. Once the season starts, it kind of lightened up a little bit, but the off season is more weight and agility training and stuff. So that's the gist of that. Unfortunately, I got in a motorcycle accident in it would have been 2008. It kind of took me away from the pit crew side and got me back more in touch with the mechanical stuff I was used to doing as a younger kid anyway.
So we typically hear of crew chiefs. We don't often hear of car chiefs. What is the difference, and what exactly are your duties as a car chief?
So I like to consider myself middle management. It's kind of a term I like to use, but no. So I have I supervise the mechanics, and basically, ultimately, all the car parts and pieces are on me to make sure that they're installed correctly and everything's ready to pass inspection, and that we don't miss anything on the builds. Where the crew chief handles more of the engineering side of it. So I'm more the car guy.
When you're going into a race, Tyler, what does it feel like as far as tension? Do you feel a lot of tension? Are you psyched up? That what gets you ready to do what you do?
Yeah, so it's kind of momentum. I mean, a lot of this stuff comes to how much pressure there is to win that particular weekend. For us, we're in a really good spot right now. So there's not a lot of pressure in a weekend like, coming into New Hampshire, coming off of a win last week at Atlanta. So it doesn't really change the way we operate week to week and how we lead up to it. But when we get there, we know that we have done everything we can do. And then the momentum of Williams driving and just the confidence he has in the crew chief can run the whole weekend and make it really smooth. So you do feel the pressure. I mean, obviously for me, I can't afford to have any of the parts fail or something installed incorrectly that could take us out of the race. I mean, that's would be solely on myself, and there is pressure for me to make sure that's not all, there's no problems there. But we have a really extensive checklist and a really good group of guys that I trust. So we don't normally have that issue. So right now, everything is pretty good. So the pressure is pretty low at the moment.
So you said like before the race, you're in charge of making sure everything's installed correctly and you pass inspections and everything like that. So on race day, everyone hears about the crew chief that's like, calling the shots almost in the ear of the driver. So what's kind of your role in that on race day?
So race day, basically, I make sure everything in the pit box is set up correctly and all the pit crew guys' radios work right. And then as far as during the race, I actually do the sign where I do the stop on sign, and then I catch the front tires. Also, I swap out for our tire carrier if we have damage. That's where you might see me going over the wall with a Sawzall and a hammer and just trying to fix what we have as far as a problem, similar to last weekend.
And it must be difficult to try to figure out exactly what has to be done when your car is in an accident or a fender bender. You got to know as soon as that car comes to the pits, what's the plan of attack?
Yeah, exactly. And the next gen car is different. Gen 6 has been the same style chassis and same style accidents we've been having for 10 plus years, that I had experience with. So I had a real good grip on that. I mean, I could almost know exactly what I needed to do without seeing it most of the time. Now, next gen is slightly different, but it's been easier lately to isolate some of the parts that are going to break. The toe links in the back, they bend if you hit the wall with the wheels. So we have a fully prepared kit to fix that, and we've had that scenario a few times. And then mainly it's just clearancing tires and making sure the parts that are carbon fiber are cut out of the way enough that the tires don't rub them. And then occasionally with this car, the damage is too great that you can't go on. They've changed rulings slightly so that you can't change or lower control arms on pit road. So if you get in one of those scenarios, you're done anyway. So
how much of the car, because I know they're always based off of, the Camaro ZL1. So how much of the car is actually from, like if you were to go to a showroom and buy a Camaro yourself, how much of it is the same car?
Not very much. I mean,
I had
the front fascia looks like a Camaro, and I'd say that's the most of it. Right. The rest of the body is pretty similar to the other manufacturers. But it has the look of a Camaro, and it all comes from Chevrolet. The body parts are made off Chevy's submitted Camaro body, so not much.
Mostly appearance.
Yes, mainly almost 100% appearance. Yes.
Okay.
William Byron is the driver of the 24, and the legendary driver of the 24, of course, Jeff Gordon. And I understand he's also part owner?
Yes. Yep.
How
Jeff is.
How much involvement does he have with the 24 now?
He's very involved in the whole company, Hendrick Motorsports. He's here. We see him almost not every day here, but every week at the track that he's there, which I think he's there probably 80% of the time. Very involved. Super into it. Still driving us forward. And his desire to win now is as great as it was when he drove. I feel like, and his role has changed obviously now that he's in charge of a greater company than just the 24. But he is obviously partial to us. I think the number for him is he loves seeing that 24 win for sure.
You had a big win in Atlanta. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was great. We had a pretty decent car, honestly. In the start of the race, we weren't as good as we wanted to be, and ultimately had a pit penalty. We had our pit coach actually had both his hands down on the hot side of pit road, which is illegal, a no-no. So they caught us on that, and they said, "Hey, you got a pit penalty." So that put us in the back. Then we got some contact and spun out, tore up the car a little bit, but one of those instances where I was able to fix it. And we believed it was going to be a rain-shortened race. Looking at the radar, we were pretty confident of that. So we were able to make a pretty decent pit call and stay out there. And then the car was good enough to hold off those guys until the rain came, essentially. So it worked out. It was great to be in that position, and you have to be there to get those wins. So that was a testament to our whole team.
And people don't realize always that it's not just about raw power and, pedal to the metal. It's a strategic thing too, like any other sport where, like you were saying, like you decided not to pit at certain times and just try and, hope the tires hold or you have enough gas or, those sort of things. So.
Yeah, of course. Because in that instance, our strategy wouldn't have worked if the race had have gone in the entirety.
Right.
We would have had to pit again, and other guys may not have. Right. So
kind of taking that gamble.
Yeah. And that's the good thing right now for us. With having 3 wins prior to that race, we're able to take that gamble. Because if it doesn't work out, it doesn't really hurt us that bad. But if it does work out, then we win. And
it pushes
not everybody's in that position.
Right.
Yeah.
We're talking with car chief for William Byron's number 24 Camaro ZL1 in the NASCAR Cup Series, and that is Tyler Jones. Tyler, you're talking about momentum. You had a big win in Atlanta. You're coming into New Hampshire. How has the 24 fared on the New Hampshire Motor Speedway?
We've been okay. I'd say okay is the best term for New Hampshire for us. I think we had a decent car last year. I don't know. We feel as a company that we've got to do some improvement there. We haven't been able to really finish off any of the races there, but I would say that our best bet, for this weekend, we have a phenomenal pit crew. And like I said, that we may be able to do some different strategy to keep ourselves in the front or get us up there, even if the car isn't that great. So we haven't fared great in the past, but we've got high hopes for this weekend for sure.
You have the 24 car. My question to you is, how many 24 cars are there? How many do you bring to the race? And how do you decide which one to run?
So we're allowed to have 7 chassis, and then you can put different body panels on them per event, and you have to if you damage them. So basically, we have a schedule of the chassis numbers and where we're going to run them based on how much they weigh. They're all very similar. Based on, the expectation for the weekend. So this car is one that we've run before, and we just picked this one out, and it's got a new clip on it. It hasn't. Last 2 weeks, there's been a new clip that NASCAR designed. It's going to have more give, so it doesn't hurt the drivers if they get in an accident. I don't know if you saw some of that stuff they posted, but so this car is what you call a short track car, one of our lighter ones, we feel like. And, some of the stuff you have to put on it makes it heavier, but everybody's bound to the same weights. So that's that. It's not the crew chief and engineers really choose the car. I just have to make sure that it's done the way they want it.
So personally, you must feel pretty good because this really is kind of a home track for you since you grew up in Vermont and headed to New Hampshire.
Yeah, it is for sure. I've always wanted to win there. You touched on it. I mean, I really want to win there. We just have never been that close. It is one of the last tracks on my bucket list to win at for sure. I've hit a lot of the high spots in my career with some of the wins, but definitely put this one on the calendar. As one, I just love to hold that lobster,
Well, you'll certainly be fighting some weather this weekend too, it looks like. So
yeah,
hope you can get the race in.
I hope so too.
Yeah. How do you prepare for that when, Scott mentioned the weather could be a little tough this weekend. Is there any special preparation that goes in it when rain is in the forecast?
Weather and temperature for sure. Just a quick note on the cars. So these cars are super, super temperature sensitive when you're building the cars and keeping the bodies within spec. So, I do a lot of research throughout the week, keeping up with the weather and like the temperature of what it's going to be when we unload the car and get it inspected. So this week looks like, it's going to be 70 and possibly raining or overcast, first thing in the morning. We start inspection at 7 on Saturday morning. So knowing that, we have to build the car to a different spec than we would if it was going to be 100 and sunny. So from the car side, that's how we prep for that. And then, the rest of it is making sure that all of our car covers and equipment stays covered up the best we can, because there's a ton of electronics and IT stuff in all the generators and the pit road carts and the pit boxes and everything. So the truck drivers do a good job. I keep in touch with them on the regular. Actually, Jason Gray, our trucker, just barely parked at New Hampshire. He just gave me a text right as we started this. So and then that's the biggest thing, is keeping stuff dry and making sure you understand what's going to happen to the car in the temperatures.
The speedway itself, New Hampshire Motor Speedway, is not a high banked track. Is there any special preparation for that?
Typically, it's deciding on a brake package at a place like this. A high braking track, normally is what becomes with the tracks that don't have a lot of banking, right? Mm-hmm. Inherently, you have to slow down more if there's not as much banking. So a lot of it is brake package in how much cooling you're going to have.
The 24 has 4 wins in 2023. Kyle Larson has 2. So your crew must be feeling overall very satisfied at this point.
Yeah, no, we are. We work right beside those guys. They're right next to us on the plate over. So really good group of guys on the 5 as well. We feel satisfied with what we've done. But, like I said to our guys, I said, this is one of the years where, if you just keep the momentum going and we stay on it and we keep pushing and don't get just happy with 4, I don't know where it could stop, right? At the end of that Atlanta race, I said, hey guys, listen, I said, cheers to 4 and 4 more, right? Like what's keeping us from doing it? But Larson's going to be great. He's going to pour it on here as soon as, any opportunity gets. He's an incredible driver as well. So, it's just been good for us, our 2 cars this year. Unfortunately, with Chase's injury, we're really trying to help him along and push him along and make sure that they make the playoffs, as well as Alex. So
it's good to have a good team around you. It really helps you, get there, because you are individuals and only one person can win. But at the end of the day, you are, in certain scenarios and strategies, being a team. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and they're all good guys. Like we don't have after a win, whether it's us, it's the 5, it's the 48, the 9, it's all, hey, great job, guys. Everybody's, proud of each other, and they come around even after the race and slap your hand and say, good job, because ultimately at the end of the day, everybody gets a bonus, right?
Right.
So
that's good.
And you live in North Carolina now. What part?
Harrisburg. So just north of Charlotte.
I don't detect any North Carolina accent yet.
Well, no, honestly, the Charlotte area is very, very rich in culture, I guess you'd say. Like there's nobody from here except for my wife, I guess. My wife actually grew up in Harrisburg, but the rest of everybody's from somewhere else.
Right.
And even this team is full of people from all over the country. So that's kind of Charlotte's thing, melting pot, I guess they call it. But no deep draw, I guess. No.
Whenever you get interviewed, do you ever have to list the sponsors like the NASCAR drivers do? That's an art.
Well, our PR girl Ashley makes sure that in a type of Instagram or face-to-face interview, I make sure I put in the right sponsors. Yes, but not always.
These drivers must have to go through some kind of a course or schooling to list all those sponsors the way they do. I mean, they're all great at it.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. And they practice a lot more than myself, I'm sure. That's some of the most important things for keeping them driving is making sure they keep the sponsors happy. So,
well, yeah, that's part of it now too, is like, 20 years ago, drivers weren't as worried about their social media. I mean, there was no social media. So now drivers are equally an athlete and a social media like influencer, if you will. Especially some of the big names, they have a huge following outside of their racing. So,
yeah, for sure.
What does Tyler Jones drive on a daily basis?
I have a Chevy Silverado.
Uh-huh.
Any fun cars in the future or?
No, not really. I have with my family, we have a SUV, but that's about it. I actually just finished building a little track car that I'm going to run in like a Lucky Dog Endurance series down here. But the problem is it's on the weekends and I'm busy on the weekends. So
yeah. How do you find time to, because that must be one of those things where if you're doing it at work all day, it must be hard to separate doing it for fun on your own.
Yes and no. So in my role now, I'm not as hands-on as I once was. So that kind of what I do at home at my shop kind of scratches the itch for some of the fabrication and the welding stuff that I don't really get to do on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. And it becomes more something that's kind of fun, and I can take my time and do it and almost relax and
that's good.
Feel like it's fun, Where here I'm trying to keep everybody on task and keep things moving along at a pretty good pace. So it is hard to separate sometimes, but the stuff I work on at home is nowhere near as nice as the stuff I have here.
How many tractor trailer trucks does it take to go to a race?
For us, each team has one full hauler. Mm-hmm. You did ask me earlier, and I forgot to mention that, but we do not carry a backup car. So we share with the 9. The 9 actually carries it for us, and we carry all the body panels and the underwing parts in ours. So each weekend, Hendrick Motorsports takes 6 cars to the track, 2 backups and 4 primaries. So each team has a full hauler.
Is it tough having teammates when you are so close? Like, say, if you're running 1 and 2, you guys are teammates, and they must, talk to you about, okay, if so and so's in front, the 24 is in front. How does that work? Your guys are all very competitive. You want to win.
It must depend on like playoff, like where your standings are, right? Like trying to, because like you're saying, like you're at 4 wins, like you don't have to win, right? So
well, yes and no. I think it's hard, right? Because you can't take somebody who's in such a good position to win and tell them not to, right?
Right.
I think the one thing that does change is the respect that they give each other in actually driving, right? So they're not going to run
not squeezing each other.
Correct. Not as hard as they would, a Joe Gibbs competitor, for example.
But do you keep everything all together? Do you have meetings with all the other drivers that are part of Hendrick? Is it all like, do you try to keep it separate, or everybody's all in the family?
Everybody's together.
Okay.
Now, Mondays they have a debrief for the crew chiefs, drivers, and then like the organizational level people. They kind of just break it down for the weekend, but it does help drive performance in the right direction. And then the car chiefs and some of the team leaders all meet on Tuesdays to do the same thing, basically.
All right. Well, Tyler, we'll let you go. We just wanted to ask you if there's anything else you'd like to mention, either about your home state of Vermont or the upcoming race at New Hampshire Motor Speedway this weekend.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm excited to get back up there. I mean, I hate that the water's going to be there for us, but, It's part of it. We've been chasing, or the weather's been chasing us around. It can't nearly be as wet as it was in Chicago. I know that.
Well, actually, I had one more quick question. If you've got a couple minutes, how do you kind of feel about the road course stuff? Because I think that has been some of the most exciting stuff to watch in NASCAR.
The Chicago street course, you mean?
Yeah,
or
the
just
street course. Yeah.
I think it was a really, really cool idea. I think they did an incredible job prepping it. I think it would have been an incredible event, even more so than it was, but the weather is what made it really hard.
Right.
Now, I think people like to see that strategy of going on wet tires and whatnot, but I liked it. I really did. It was a cool experience. We flew up there. We took a bus to the hotel. We never got rental cars. We walked to the racetrack. I mean, it felt like you were in downtown Chicago because you were. And believe it or not, I would say, they told us ahead of time, hey, the people of Chicago aren't really super pumped you're going to be here, right? But
as soon as that race starts, though.
Yeah, on the contrary, every person I saw was like, wow, this is crazy. I did not understand what goes into all this. I didn't know that there was this many cars and it took this many people and it took this much stuff to put on this type of event. So I think it opened some people's eyes. I think a lot of people in general that aren't avid race fans just think, hey, they just take this one car and they drive around in circles and then everybody cheers at the end. When, it really takes a lot more, and it takes a huge group of people, to get the car to the track. And then you only see the last little bit of what it takes to put on that show. And, I think it opens up people's eyes. So I do like road course racing personally. I really do enjoy it. So I thought that was a really cool experience for everybody. I know that the weather, like I said, I was cold, still cold for 2 days afterwards because the rain just did not stop in the morning. But I think it was an awesome thing, and I hope that we can go to more venues like that.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see what other cities get that sort of treatment.
Yeah, and they did a great job. Shout out to the people of Chicago, whoever those people were that worked on the streets and the logistics of it all. It went really smooth
because that's months, and that's a lot of planning to make that work.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
Tyler, thanks for being with us. Continued success with the number 24. You're having a fantastic year, and we really appreciate you joining us with this podcast today.
Yeah, good luck this weekend.
Thank you guys.
You bet. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Yep, thank you.
Bye.
Okay, Car Chief William Byron's number 24, Camaro Z1 in the NASCAR Cup Series with us today. We want to thank you very much, Tyler. Thanks to Scott Nickerson from Sport Car USA for being with us as well. And thanks for listening to our Test Drive podcast. I'm Lee Bodette, your host. Check out our Test Drive series on YouTube. And we'll see you next time on our Test Drive podcast. And remember, let's never forget the men and women serving this great country of ours. Goodbye, everybody.